A big focus, Russia and Ukraine are set to hold their first direct peace talks in 3 years. Both countries have said this, but hopes for a breakthrough remain dim after Russian President Vladimir Putin spurned an offer by Ukrainian President Zelensky to meet face-to-face in Turkey. Zelensky has said he was sending a team headed by his defense minister to Istanbul for the talks, even as he said that the Russian delegation did not include anyone who actually makes decisions, accusing Moscow of not making efforts to end the current war. Zelensky's announcement on Thursday, though, came after the Kremlin said Putin had no intention to meet with him in Turkey, sending instead that junior delegation for the planned talks, a move that Estonian Foreign Minister Margus Tsahkna said was like a slap in the face. Just listen in to what the US President had to say regarding the matter.
Після того, як ми зрозуміли рівень російської делегації, ми бачимо, що вони, на жаль, дуже несерйозно ставляться до реальних перемовин. Поки що ми не бачимо серед присутніх ті, хто дійсно ухвалює рішення, хоча це була, хочу нагадати, пропозиція русських до прямих перемовин, підтримка президента Трампа особисто, що лідери повинні зустрітися, але тим не менш.
He was going to go, but he thought I was going to go. He wasn't going if I wasn't there, and I don't believe anything's going to happen, whether you like it or not, until he and I get together. But we're going to have to get it solved because too many people are dying. Thank you. You're going to land right now. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Well, for an expert's view on the matter, joining us live from Washington at the moment, John Rosamondo. As always, thank you so much for making time for us on NDTV. John, in terms of the stakes and symbolism, this is the first direct contact in 3 years. Putin is absent. Zelensky's team lacks decision-making power. So what does this actually say about the real intent behind these talks, John?
Well, it just shows me that it's a lot of window dressing. It's just a lot of stuff saying, hey, you know, the Russians and the Ukrainians are talking. However, when you don't have anybody who makes decisions in the room to do anything or do any of the heavy lifting, it just shows that these so-called peace talks are nothing but symbolism.
Right. And in terms of what we've just heard the US president say, that nothing is going to happen unless he and Putin meet, how do you think this personalization of diplomacy actually affects the credibility of peace-building efforts?
Well, I think that it brings to the top. I mean, one thing about Donald Trump is he believes in personal relationships to make deals, which is something that he learned in his years as a real estate developer and as a businessman.
Right.
And you saw in his first term where he reached out to Kim Jong-un, the dictator of North Korea. I think that President Trump believes that he has the charisma and the ability to persuade Vladimir Putin to make concessions. Right. However, if you look at the facts on the ground, Putin seems unwilling to make anything short of disarming Ukraine.
Yes.
And the acknowledgement that Russia has won the war.
Meanwhile, Zelensky has described the talks as a step towards de-escalation, but also accused Russia of lacking sincerity. What do you have to say about this dual messaging? Is it a strategic move to maintain Western support?
Well, I think that Zelensky just has to look at reality. I mean, he's just talking like it is. Right. Vladimir Putin has zero interest in peace. I mean, he's shown that in his refusal to have largely symbolic ceasefires, and in his refusal to stop the war in the name of peace. So I think that this is something par for the course.
John, as we wrap, if these talks fizzle out, as many expect, what are the likely repercussions we can expect for Ukraine's battlefield strategy and also for Western cohesion on sanctions against Russia?
Well, I think that you'll have large cohesion on sanctions among the Western nations. However, I think that Ukraine is on borrowed time. The West has largely reduced its military aid and assistance to Ukraine. Ukraine has a limited supply of manpower. Yes. And everything right now is in the hands of Putin in terms of momentum and capability.
Well, we'll keep a close eye on all the developments as far as Turkey and the peace talks are concerned. John, as always, thank you so much for making time for us and joining us with your views.
Thank you.
Meanwhile, the other big story we're tracking, the India-US trade talks. The Commerce Ministry says that they are progressing well. With this, as a team from India, led by Commerce and Industries Minister Piyush Goyal, will be going to Washington for further discussions. Piyush Goyal will lead the team of senior Indian officials to Washington for discussions on the agreement starting May 17th, and meetings with the US Trade Representative Jamieson Greer and US Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick are on the cards. But you need to note that the talks come against the backdrop of both our countries exploring the possibility of an interim trade arrangement in goods to secure early mutual wins ahead of finalizing the first phase of the trade agreement by fall, which is September-October this year. Just listen in to what our External Affairs Minister Dr. Jaishankar had to say regarding US-India trade talks.
Between India and US, trade talks have been going on, negotiations have been going on. In fact, we have, I think a team is just going at this point. These are very complicated negotiations. They are very intricate. Nothing is decided till everything is. But any trade deal has to be mutually beneficial. Any trade deal has to work for both the countries. And I think that would be our expectation from the trade deal.
My colleague Rishabh Bhatnagar has been tracking all the latest details for us. He joins us live at the moment. Rishabh, what details can you disclose regarding India's 4-day trade talks in the US?
Right, Parmeshwar, what we're hearing is the fact that the Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal is set to meet the USTR, the US Trade Representative Jamieson Greer, US Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick, he's the counterpart for the Commerce Minister in the US. Two important contextual points under which this visit by Minister Goyal comes. The first one being the easing of the US-China relations. We've seen that the tariff truce has happened there. Both have slashed reciprocal tariffs of 115% off of each other. So that tension has eased, and that trade relationship has now prospered. So now we need to see how India tackles that, given the fact that India's pitch is as an alternative to China as a global manufacturing hub. So if US-China relations are good, India does not stand to benefit from that. The second one is, of course, India's retaliation at the WTO that came in a few days before these talks were slated to begin. And that is also something that might be discussed as part of these bilateral trade agreements. Apart from that, two separate rounds have already taken place. An Indian team has already gone to Washington. After that, and an American team has already visited India. So this is the third sort of official round that is taking place of in-person negotiations. So get to see what is also important is the 90-day tariff pause window that is set to expire around July 8th. So a lot of chatter on whether the first tranche of this bilateral trade agreement could be completed within that 90-day window. So lots to check before this May 17 to May 20 trade talk window ends.
Rishabh, as always, thanks so much for joining us with the lowdown. We will, of course, revert to you for regular updates. Meanwhile, in other news, a fresh bail petition filed by fugitive diamond trader Nirav Modi has been rejected by the High Court of Justice King Bench Division in London. And this is actually now the 10th bail petition since his detention in the UK, which was successfully defended by the CBI through Crown Prosecution Service, London. The bail arguments, we're told, were strongly opposed by the Crown Prosecution Service advocate, who was ably assisted by a strong Central Bureau of Investigation team consisting of investigating and law officers who travelled to London for this very purpose. With that, let's turn our attention now to the US President's Gulf tour. Donald Trump has hailed his country's relationship with the United Arab Emirates during a meeting with his counterpart Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan in Abu Dhabi. And in a first-of-its-kind moment, The Sheikh Zayed Grand Mosque in Abu Dhabi was closed to the public to welcome US President Donald Trump during this official visit to the UAE. Sheikh Mohammed, by the way, has confirmed a $1.4 trillion investment in US artificial intelligence, saying the UAE hopes to work with the US to advance peace and stability globally. Meanwhile, I must also inform you about the nuclear deal. Well, the US says they are on the brink of finalizing a nuclear deal with Iran, the details of which the White House has not disclosed.
And you probably read today the story about Iran has sort of agreed to the terms. They're not going to make, I call it in a friendly way, nuclear dust. We're not going to be making any nuclear dust in Iran. And we've been strong. I want them to succeed. I want them to end up being a great country, frankly, but they can't have a nuclear weapon. That's the only thing. It's very simple. It's not like I have to give you 30 pages worth of details. There's only one sentence: they can't have a nuclear weapon.
And joining us for further clarity on the matter, Arab and Middle East expert James Bowden. James, always a pleasure to have you on our show. We've just heard Donald Trump claiming the US and Iran are nearing a nuclear deal. But given the history of distrust and the 2018 withdrawal from the JCPOA, how credible is this optimism, James?
I don't think it's very credible, and we have to realize that there appear to be two different factions, even within the Iranian government, that are struggling for control. It was announced late last night that the Iranians were willing to get rid of highly enriched uranium. They were looking to cap enrichment and also subject themselves to inspections. Then early today, the Iranian foreign minister came out and said, no, we are not going to cap any enrichment. We're not going to limit ourselves, and we're going to pursue an aggressive policy. We're going to have complete open door. So we're seeing a lot of different shifting positions. We've got President Trump, who is shifting by the day on his own. And then we have the Iranians who appear to be in this power struggle. So I'm not very confident that we are really close to a deal. And I think that it's going to take some more substantial moves before we can get to that point.
Right. Meanwhile, Qatar, James, has emerged again as a key mediator. How has Doha positioned itself as a trusted go-between for Washington and Tehran, and what does it actually stand to gain at the moment?
Well, Qatar has long served as a go-between for the United States, and they do have good connections with a lot of different parties. You'll remember that in 2016, I believe it was, or 2017, they were Saudi Arabia tried to eject them from the region because of their strong ties to Iran. And so they're plugged in. A lot of people see them as the big peacemakers and deal makers in the region. And so the United States has wisely tapped into that source. And I think that we have seen that policy bear a lot of fruit.
Well, Iran's president Pezeshkian has called the US the source of regional instability, while Trump has called Iran the most destructive force. We'll keep a close eye on how such rhetoric also plays in shaping real negotiations. But thank you so much, James, as always, for making time for us and joining us on NDTV.
It's my pleasure.
And amid the backlash in India over Turkey's support for Pakistan in the India-Pakistan conflict, India's aviation security regulator, the Bureau of Civil Aviation Security, has revoked the security clearance of an Indian arm, Çelebi Airport Services India of Turkey headquartered airport ground handling major Çelebi Aviation Holding, in the interest of national security, and this is with immediate effect. And by the way, scripting a new chapter in regional dynamics, our External Affairs Minister Dr. Jaishankar has spoken with the Taliban's acting Foreign Minister Amir Khan Muttaqi over an official phone call. I'll tell you why this call assumes significance. It is the first ministerial level outreach by India to Afghanistan's Taliban administration, and Dr. Jaishankar's call to Mr. Muttaqi came days after Afghanistan's Taliban regime, which New Delhi is yet to officially recognize, condemned the Pahalgam terror attack in which 26 civilians lost their lives. Let's get you a quick update from the US now, where Badar Khan Suri, an Indian academic and visiting scholar at Georgetown University, was released from immigration detention after a court order. But he has described his experience in detention as Kafkaesque, saying he was chained everywhere, wrists, ankles, and his body. He also mentioned that during the first 7 to 8 days, he didn't even know where he was being taken and even missed his shadow. They made a subhuman out of me, is what Mr. Suri has said, as US District Judge Patricia Giles, ruling from Virginia, ordered Mr. Suri's immediate release, stating that his detention was in violation of the First Amendment, which is the right to free speech. The judge actually authorized his return to his family on personal recognizance, and Suri's lawyers have filed a habeas corpus petition to challenge the lawfulness of his detention as per reports. Well, news and updates continue in a moment, right after this very short break. Do stay tuned. The other crucial headline we're tracking: India and Pakistan have decided to continue the confidence-building measures to reduce the alertness level on the border. This is what the Indian Army has confirmed. Nazir Masoodi has been tracking all the finer developments for us from Ground Zero. He joins us over the phone line this morning. Nazir, we're given to understand that New Delhi and Islamabad DGMOs have agreed to continue talks.
Exactly. This is what Army has said in a statement yesterday evening, that both the DGMOs, following the understanding they have arrived at on 10th of May, they will continue confidence-building measures to reduce the alertness along the line and along the borders. So, but there has been a country statement from Pakistan which is saying that it is agreed that the ceasefire has been extended up to 18th, which means it is not indefinite, and the ceasefire understanding was without putting a deadline or the deadline to it. So having said that, India from day one has said after ceasefire understanding that they not just the ceasefire understanding, but also they were planning to reduce the number of troops from the border and equipment, so that there's disengagement, there's de-escalation on the borders. But we have seen over the last few days there has been rhetoric from the harsh statement from the both sides. Pakistan making certain statements. Defense Minister yesterday has made very Rajnath Singh from Srinagar very strong statement saying if there's any future attack that would be treated as an act of war. And he also asked the international community and IAEA to take over these nuclear arsenal of Pakistan, but he said are not safe in the hands of Pakistan.
Nazir, as always, thank you so much for joining us with the latest information. And to the US now, where the Department of Homeland Security and Secret Service are investigating a social media post by former FBI Director James Comey that several US officials interpreted as calling for the assassination of Donald Trump. This is what the US Homeland Security Secretary has said. And in further updates from the United States, US District Judge Arun Subramaniam began presiding over the high-stakes federal trial of rapper Sean Diddy Combs in New York. As you know, Sean Diddy Combs is facing serious charges, including racketeering conspiracy, sex trafficking, and transportation to engage in prostitution. The trial is expected to last about 8 weeks, and it could lead to life imprisonment for Combs upon conviction. You must note that the Indian origin judge, Mr. Subramaniam, appointed by former President Joe Biden in 2022, also oversaw the jury selection process in this case. Meanwhile, US Supreme Court justices have expressed concerns about allowing Donald Trump's radical reinterpretation of the Constitution's guarantee of birthright citizenship to go into effect while litigation continues. In an unusual move, the court heard oral arguments on a series of Trump administration emergency requests seeking to limit the scope of nationwide injunctions that blocked the plan almost as soon as it was announced in January. And finally, if you are building the future of clean energy or climate science, the UAE is ready to roll out the green carpet for a decade for you. The UAE's Blue Visa is calling everyone, including Indians, who are shaping a sustainable future, and 10 years of residency is also included. We did an explainer earlier to break down the details for you. Listen in. The Blue Visa, the UAE's boldest, most sustainability-charged immigration move yet. It's not a sci-fi concept, it's happening now. And yes, Indians can apply. And if you've been doing cutting-edge work in climate change, clean energy or sustainability, you might just be Dubai bound for a decade. Now think of it as the VIP lounger visas reserved for climate warriors and clean energy crusaders. Launched officially in 2025, the Blue Visa gives eligible individuals 6 months to live in the UAE, explore opportunities, and if you're the real deal, transition into a full 10-year residency. Yes, a decades-long visa for being good to the planet. But let me just tell you who's eligible. Not just anyone who's planted a tree or recycled a bottle, but the UAE is rolling out the green carpet for scientists and researchers with global credibility, investors and entrepreneurs in green tech, clean energy and climate resilience, and specialists working in environment-linked organizations, whether it's private or government. You see, it's part of the UAE's push to become the world's green business hub. ICYMI 2024 was their second consecutive year of sustainability, and yes, they're quite serious about this. Also, you don't need to be in the UAE to start the process and apply for this visa. As of the 13th of May 2025, the doors are wide open. All you need is a valid passport, a recent photograph, and your proof of environmental contributions. But then how is it different from the Golden Visa? Well, the Golden Visa was the UAE's flagship Invite the Best Minds project. But the Blue Visa has a specific mission: environmental impact. But if you do dig a little deeper, you'll realize that the UAE knows optics. This isn't just about saving the planet, it's about positioning the UAE as a green tech magnet, boosting economic diversification post-oil, and soft power branding ahead of future COP summits. But with this, it's clear that the UAE isn't just looking for tourists anymore, it's looking for change makers. And your next trip to Dubai might just be the beginning of your decade-long climate mission.